Ross Tucker at Ross Tucker NFL for the Daily Eagles Ross Report. Ross, how are we doing today?
I am doing just fine, fellas. How about yourself?
Oh, well, we're going through it, Ross.
Yeah.
And I was trying to tell them before they jumped all over me like a bunch of crickets that in games like this, you always try to draw from the positives first because you still have a lot of football to play. And I guess my question to you is from your purview, what were some of the positives that you saw from this football game?
Well, you know what's interesting, Hugh? I think you and I are kind of sharing a brain because I feel differently than a lot of the other folks feel today. I mean, they went up against a pretty darn good team. The Chargers, whatever they are, 9-4, so they're a confirmed good team. And even if they just had 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, and 1 fumble by the quarterback, they would have won the game or at worst tied the game. I guess I would feel a lot worse if they weren't able to move the ball at all, or it was like the Bears game and they got their you-know-what's run over. I think encouraged would be too strong of a word, but what I would say to you is they're not going to have games with 5 turnovers. That's not – of course they shouldn't win a game if they have 5 turnovers. What's the likelihood that happens again? I think not real high. They lose a touchdown because of a penalty, another one that might have been a touchdown or whatever. I can't remember in the Jurgens because of a penalty. A.J. Brown has multiple drops. I mean, I guess I watched that game and thought they were clearly the better team. They had a bunch of mistakes that cost them the game ultimately, but I don't really know how much of a difference it makes. I mean, in my mind, they're going to be the 3 seed. They're still going to win the division. They're going to be the 3 seed. They're going to have a home playoff game. They need to win that home playoff game, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, if you can have 2 takeaways. It's fair to say they do not look like a team that's going to repeat and win the Super Bowl, and I don't think they're even close to as good as the Seahawks or Rams right now. If that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is ultimately they're fine in terms of having a home playoff game, in my mind, and a chance in the tournament.
Ross, let's talk about the quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Just in general, obviously last night was a career worst game. Probably an outlier when it comes to ever seeing that many turnovers again. But just as you've watched him throughout the season, Ross, I'm going to ask the question usually reserved for, I would say, older players. Do you think Jalen Hurts is regressing as an NFL quarterback?
Well, what's interesting about that, Joe, is I do think they're trying to do some different things with him. And I think last night was an indicator of perhaps why he doesn't typically work the middle of the field that much and doesn't like to, because the middle of the field can get messy. A lot of things can happen in the middle of the field. They can drop a D tackle that you're not expecting, and you can throw the ball right to them. Stuff like that happens. And you can see why it feels like Hurts typically prefers the cleaner reads of the outside isolation routes because there's less hands there. There's less opportunity to throw an interception. I would actually say one of my biggest frustrations or questions coming out of last night was more about Hurts as a runner. I can appreciate and respect that he's sliding so as to not take hits, so as to not get hurt, and I think that's the right move. But I guess I'm wondering if there's something wrong with him physically, because he does not look to me like he's moving as fast as he used to, or as fast as he can, or as fast as he does at other times. I mean, there was like a stark contrast, I felt like, between Herbert running and Hurts running, and that should not be the case. And Herbert has a broken hand that he got operated on Monday, a plate and multiple screws. Herbert's getting the crap beat out of him, and he basically won the game by not turning it over and by running. I mean, that's basically how Herbert won the game. And I would like to see a little more from Hurts running and a little more of a sense of urgency. They need it. They need it.
Ross, I'm curious your perspective on this, and then because you're around so many people in the NFL at games, curious maybe when you talk to coaches and people in the league, what they actually think matters. So, Ross, I've had this theory for a while that maybe us as fans were a little bit behind in terms of really how quarterbacks are evaluated. Because a lot this year, when Jalen's up and down or the offense is up and down, our callers cite, hey, Joe, his touchdown-interception ratio is sterling. And before last night, it was, right? Like it was one of the best in the NFL. Yet they're not scoring any points, and it doesn't look like the offense is any good. So I've started to wonder, is that really what matters? And Ross, I'm going to throw a couple of stats at you. I'm sure you've heard these. Whether or not you use them, I'm sure you heard them. And I'm just curious what you think actually matters, like how the Eagles might be assessing him, how we should be. So when you look at the other stats, kind of under the hood a little bit, Jalen Hurts is 25th now in success rate. He's 20th in QBR. He is 18th in expected points added per play. That number comes up a lot. Ross, how do you think football people actually evaluate quarterbacks numbers-wise? And what do you think about Hurts compared to the surface numbers, maybe versus the other underneath ones, which don't look as good?
It's a really, really good question. And I would say that I think front office executives and personnel, people, they look at a lot of the newer statistics or advanced, preferred, better, more relevant statistics that you just cited, Joe. And they look at that as a better indicator of how a quarterback's performing. I think coaches are still more old school, and it's really not even statistics. It's watching the guy play, watching what he's asked to do, and how well does he do based on what he's asked to do and the people around him. Because that really changes from team to team. You know, not only the people around you, but what you're asked to do really changes depending on what team you're on. And I think it would be fair to look at Hurts and say, okay, look what he's got around him and look what they're asking him to do. He should be more productive than this.
Yeah, I think it's a fair way to put it. And what makes it so interesting in football is there's so many players on the field, right? Like we're pulling out one player's numbers, but there's the context of all those players on the field with them. Ross, the run game, I feel like it's getting a little bit better. I mean, I know they had the one big one last night that probably inflated Saquon's numbers, but I saw bursts when he got around the edge on that the fake tush push there. What have you seen with the run game, and is there something that maybe we can build on the last couple of weeks, specifically last night?
Well, I think the burst has been there all year, and I don't think the line has blocked it as cleanly. And I've never thought that Saquon had great vision, and that goes back to college. And the reason why I felt that way, and I watched every snap he played at Penn State, he had way too many negative yardage runs, way too many. That happened with the Giants too. And I know the line wasn't good. I think there's a little bit of, I would say, almost like a Barry Sanders to his game, where he has a unique ability because of his speed and power to go a long way. But he's not as much of a sustaining back as other guys are. And as a result, you get a decent amount of negative yardage runs, which put you in 2nd and 12. You know, that was, believe it or not, the knock on Barry Sanders is that, hey, we love Barry. He's maybe the greatest ever, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of scoring points, it's a lot of 2nd and 12s. It's a lot of 3rd and longs. Those are really hard to come back from in the NFL, as opposed to, I'll just give an example of a guy I blocked for. I can't hardly ever remember Emmitt Smith having a negative yardage run. I mean, when I was there, okay, he was like 34 years old. We stunk as an offensive line. He was small, he was slow, and he somehow, Joe, would always get 3 or 4 yards. Oh, like, I have no idea how he did it. He'd find a little nook or cranny. He'd dip, dodge, dive, and that's not really Saquon. So I think, you know, when the coaches talk a lot about first down, they're not calling out Saquon because if the line blocked it better and blah, blah, blah. But when they're saying they need to do better on first down, That's a lot of what they're talking about.
Ross, last one for you. Let's end this on a fun note here. Your thought on Phillip Rivers potentially coming back here at the age of 44. I think he came in the league just a few years after you, and he could be playing quarterback for the Colts, I guess, before this season is over, if this thing becomes a real thing. And he had a workout with them last night. Ross, your thought on 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, 5 years after playing, trying to come back and play in the NFL?
Well, I think it's an incredible story. My rookie year was 2001. He was 2004, but he's only 2 years younger than me. He's 44. Listen, I've been saying for years we need more grandfathers in the NFL. We need more grandpas, pop-ups, whatever you want to call it, playing in the NFL. You know, Joe, in 2 weeks I'm doing Niners at Colts.
It's a big one. On
the radio. I don't want it to be Riley Leonard. I want it to be Phillip Rivers. I'm like praying that they sign him, and I think I saw a tweet from McAfee saying it's going down. Now, I don't know how quickly they would start him, but he's not going there to be a backup, I wouldn't think. So, however it plays out, it's like an incredible, incredible fun story that makes the Colts like must-see TV, and I hope he does. I hope he lights it up. It'd be amazing.
It'd be the coolest story of the NFL season. I'm rooting for it too. I hope you start that night. You're doing that game, Ross. We appreciate hopping on as always. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk next week. Hopefully on a positive note after a win over the Raiders on Sunday, Ross.
Oh my gosh, if they lose to the Raiders, that would be bad. I would be shocked. I did a Raiders game a couple weeks ago. They are not good. I would be – it'll take maybe more than 5 turnovers for them to lose to the Raiders.
Yeah, this is the perfect opponent. Ross, we appreciate hopping on. Have a great week, and we'll talk next time.
Have a good one,
See you guys.
There we go. I saw Tucker Bagley put up a note last night. He was the only team in the last 5 weeks in the NFL to score fewer touchdowns than the Eagles. You know who that is?
Raiders.
The Raiders.